There he is.
Good afternoon, everyone. If everyone could take a seat so we can get started, I would sure appreciate that. This afternoon, the order that we're going in, we are going to do Canal Place first because we have a busy analyst. And then we'll do Historic St. Mary's City, and then we'll do the Department of Commerce. So if we can get started with Carrie Cook.
Yes. Karen.
She can go there. She can go there if she wants. You're fine. Whichever place you prefer. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Carrie Cook, Department of Legislative Services, presenting the budget analysis for Canal Place Preservation and Development Authority. So the authority administers the passages of the Western Potomac Heritage Area. This is the only heritage area in the state that is its own state agency. It is also the first one, and it was created by statute. You can see here the operating budget summary. The fiscal 2024 budget increases 87,000 or 12.7% to 776,000. There was a proposed deficiency in the fiscal 2023 budget, and that is to supplement the agency's janitorial and maintenance contract. And then you can see in Exhibit 1 here, this is the overview of the agency spending in fiscal 2024. You can see that the vast majority, 77% of their budget, is for personnel expenses, as well as just general preservation and maintenance costs for the agency's facilities. Exhibit 2 is the proposed budget change. So their net increase for personnel expenses added 30,000. That was for increases in employee and retiree health insurance, as well as statewide increments that the committee has seen in other agencies. And the major change for them is the addition of one contractual full-time equivalent position, which I'll get to in just a moment in the personnel section. There is also an increase of 35,000 for fiber optic installation for their telecommunication system. And this is going to be used to allow Canal Place to connect to various state systems that they were not able to do before with their existing infrastructure. Moving on to personnel here, as I mentioned, there is one additional contractual full-time equivalent in the fiscal 2024 allowance. This brings their total personnel up to a whopping 4. So this new position was recommended by the agency's annual auditors. And so they are hoping that this person is going to do some general administrative work, including ensuring the timely completion of their audits and reporting requirements. The agency also hopes that this new position will be able to focus on grant writing. There is going to be additional opportunities for the agency to apply and review grants as they are expanding their operations, particularly working on their River Park project. And just a few brief issues here. So this first issue describes the future of Canal Place. So given its unique situation as the only heritage area that is its own separate state agency, there have been several legislative studies that have sort of sought to figure out what direction Canal Place will go. And you can see the details in the legislation there. There was not any follow-up completed. There was not a report completed as was initially mandated. So given the sort of lack of momentum with those studies, Canal Place has instead pursued a different route to potentially merge with the Department of Natural Resources as a Maryland state park, or also perhaps as a partnership park, which is a new opportunity in the Great Maryland Outdoors Act, which was passed in 2022, as the committee recalls. So upon further conversations with DNR, they have determined that the Great Maryland Outdoors Act does not permit existing state agencies to become a partnership park. So in order to pursue this path forward, there would have to be the passage of additional legislation to make an exception for Canal Place. So DLS recommends the agency discuss the possibility of becoming a partnership park or merging with DNR outside that program, including how inclusion in DNR's organization would help or hinder Canal Place's ability to achieve their short and long-term goals. And the second issue here is regarding the Open Meetings Act. So another bill that passed last year removed exemptions for several small agencies that were previously exempt from the Open Meetings Act, including Canal Place. So that extended these requirements, including making agendas available at least 48 hours in advance, making minutes available, as well as live video streaming of meetings. So the agency does try and promote transparency currently, however they can, posting a public Zoom link for their meetings, for example, posting agendas in their physical office building. But they do have some constraints in terms of their website to store all the documents and as well as live streaming their meetings. So instead of having a certain repository with all the minutes posted, they sort of have to post them as blog posts almost, which makes it a little bit harder to find and is not really as available as they would like it to be. But creating one centralized page for all these documents would require a pretty pricey upgrade to their website because it just currently doesn't have the capability to do that. They additionally do not have the capability to live stream meetings, and I've described the cost associated in a bid that they've gotten to upgrade the website for these capabilities. So the agency should discuss the logistical challenges that are imposed by the new Open Meetings Act requirements and how making the necessary investments to achieve full compliance may impact their long-term finances. And I'm just going to very briefly discuss a few updates. The OLA audit from a few years ago, April 2021, noticed that they were behind on their required annual audits. The agency has been making efforts to become up to date with this. They did hire a contractor and have submitted all required information. There have been a few delays associated with the contractor, so they have not all been finalized yet, but the agency is, continuing to push forward with that effort and submit everything that they have available. And finally, the River Park at Canal Place, which the committee heard about last year, is a major project that will have lots of different recreational opportunities as well as expanding the boundaries. So I just wanted to note that the agency has secured additional funding from various sources. They have been very aggressive in applying for funding. So there is $6 million in a federal earmark that will be administered through an SHA program called the Transportation Alternative Program. This will support a trail system as well as interpretive signage. They've also secured funding from Allegheny County and the city of Cumberland. And they also have secured funding with a tourism grant from the Economic Development Administration, which will be funneled through the Maryland Department of Commerce, excuse me. And they hope to undergo an engineering and design study, which will give them cost estimates for various project components that they hope to fold into this larger expansion project. In terms of the recommended actions, DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance for the operating budget, and that concludes my formal presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Good job. Okay, we have Rebecca Rupert and Deidre Ritchie. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Is this on? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. My name is Rebecca Rupert. I am a volunteer vice chair of the Canal Place Preservation and Development Authority. And with me today is the executive director of the authority, Deirdre Ritchie, who will be giving the budget testimony. First, let me say thank you for having us here today. It's a privilege to appear before you. And we would also like to thank Carrie Cook of the Department of Legislative Services for her assistance in guiding us through this year's budget analysis. We thank you for your time and consideration of the Canal Place Preservation and Development Authority fiscal year 24 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And I also would like to thank Carrie for all her help. She did an amazing job this year with our budget, and so did our DBM budget analyst, Corinne DeFrancis. So I don't think she could be here today.
I'm guessing that you have a lot of volunteers. Are you mostly volunteers or not?
My entire board is volunteer,
Mhm.
but that's all I have. I mean, we have contractual maintenance staff. That's about it.
Okay, as I was, and I'll let you do your testimony, but as I was reading through the analysis here, I'm looking at the audits and all that kind of thing, and I'm guessing for a small group like you, it's really hard to get that kind of stuff done. Correct.
Well, That is correct. And I think COVID was the beginning of it because that backed us up for the first audit and then it just trickled down. We have completed all the audits that we're just waiting on the written report and my board to approve the last 121 audit. So we're all caught up. But yes, it's with all the state reporting and everything else, it's a lot for 3 people. It really is. So thank you for understanding that. So I've been asked to comment first to see if becoming a partnership park would hurt us or help us. And as Carrie mentioned, I was speaking with Daryl Anthony and great length about how we would become a partnership park. And that's when I found out that because we were a state agency that legislation would have to be amended, written, approved, whatever for us to become that. But I really think it would help us, especially with some of the comments that were made about the task force study and us having our own separate budget. The biggest part of our Canal Place Preservation and Development Authority budget it's the maintenance. It's hard
Sure.
to maintain 11 acres and the buildings, festival grounds, parking lots that we have. And then we want to be taking on this river project, which is being 100% supported by so many people statewide and locally. So we're already a heritage park, historical park located in the heart of downtown Cumberland, which makes us an urban park. My office building is the historic Western Maryland Railway Station. It's on the National Register. We completed the Nationally Historic Footer Dye Works project that also sits on our property. The Gap Trail, Great Allegheny Passage, which brings hundreds of thousands of people into Allegheny County every year. Mile marker 0 there. Mile marker 184.5 of the C&O Canal Towpath right there. And we've kicked up the rewatering of the C&O. And now again, National Road, beginning of the National Road, which actually started in Cumberland, Maryland, is right across the river from us. So we're set up to be everything that's described as a partnership park, except for we
Sure.
just can't do it.
Okay, well, we will have to be talking to your expert legislators from that area and we'll see what we can come up with.
Well, I would appreciate that because the inclusion of, I did think last year asked DNR we become part of DNR and our one legislator wanted no parts of that.
Yeah.
So this is the only other thing
Okay.
I could come up with.
All right, well, we will do some investigation on that.
I appreciate that.
Okay,
The other comment on the Open Meetings Act and why that's going to cost so much more.
right.
Again, there's only 3 of us, so we have an outside contractor that handles all our webpage information. We don't have enough data storage on our website to handle what all is required with that Open Meetings Act. So
And it's pretty expensive to find one that can do all that for a
It-
small group.
it absolutely is. And he's local and he does a wonderful job helping us with our website.
Mhm.
So that's why the additional cost is needed. Allegheny County can somehow apply for a Maryland broadband grant to run our fiber. So our fiber can be run to Canal Place for free. However, when it comes to upgrading the hard wiring in our building, there's no grant to cover that. So we need that done too to connect the fiber.
Okay,
So thank you.
all right, thank you very much. Think we're good.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our list, we have Historic St. Mary's City Commission. Morgan Smith is the analyst. Dr. Regina Faden, Executive Director. And we'll start with the analyst.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Morgan Smith, and I'm here today to present the operating budget analysis for Historic St. Mary's City Commission. And on the first page, you'll see the operating budget summary chart. And in fiscal 2024, the commission's budget increases 1.1 million or 18.7% to 7.1 million. We're going to jump to page 2. At the beginning, there's a short discussion of the proposed efficiency that's included in this year's budget for fiscal 2023. And that is a little over $33,000 for salary enhancements for education and maintenance contractual full-time equivalent staff. And then further down on the same page, you will see Exhibit 1, which shows the overview of agency spending. And spending at Historic St. Mary City is broken into 6 primary functions. And I'll just walk through a couple of these. So the largest portion of their budget is 1.9 million or 27%, and that's for administrative purposes. You have another quarter that's used for maintenance, with another a little less than a quarter used for public programs and education. And St. Mary's uses the funding for public programs and education to bring individuals down to the site and talk about the founding of Maryland and some of those historic buildings that exist at the commission. And then you have another 17% that's dedicated to research archaeology, and that is used in a couple different ways at the site, but right now they're currently focused on uncovering the fort, where artifacts and documentation suggest that English settlers lived harmoniously with native tribes. And then there's just a little bit of funding for marketing and business enterprises fit in at the end in those smaller pieces of the pie chart. We're going to move now to page 3. Exhibit 2 actually spans the bottom of page 3 and on to the beginning of page 4, and it shows the major changes that are happening within the commission. And you'll notice in the other changes column here at the bottom, that 567,000 is the biggest change that's happening at the commission. And that's for the Maryland Heritage Interpretive Site contractual services costs for educational media. And the next biggest change is 283,000 for contractual salaries to support 3.5 new full-time equivalent positions, which I'll talk about in a second, and raising other contractual workers to living wages. On the next page, at the bottom of page 4, you'll see a discussion of personnel. And between the fiscal 23 working appropriation and the fiscal 24 allowance, the commission stayed stable at 32 regular positions, but added 3.5 contractual FTEs. 2.5 of those were to support the visitor center, whereas one of those is for rediscovery, collection, management, data entry. And then we'll move into some of the observations about the commission. So the first one on the top of page 5 shows Exhibit 3, and that is the visitors that have come to the site for different purposes over the last 5 fiscal years. And one of the goals of the commission is to educate the public by having them come down to the site and be immersed in the history of Maryland. Total attendance to the site increased by 102% to 53,776 visitors in fiscal 2022 from the low seen in fiscal 2020 of 26,640 visitors. And important here to note is that blue bar at the bottom of the stacked bar chart that increases over time. That's the recreational use of the site. And one of the goals at Historic St. Mary City, obviously, is to bring people in. But when the commission closed during the pandemic, they saw an increase in the recreational use of the site. And so one of their goals that they communicated to me last year was that they really wanted to hone that growth in recreational use. And what we see here is that between 2021 and 2022, they still saw a growth in recreational use, despite the fact that COVID restrictions were lifted and people did not have to seek outdoor use of space. I really want to point out the numbers for that. So in fiscal 2022, recreational use reached a peak and it exceeded 30,000 individuals using it for that purpose. And that's an increase of 190% as compared to 2018. So they have seen quite a large growth in that use over the last 5 years. We're now going to skip to page 7. This is Exhibit 4. Exhibit 4 shows the earned special funds over the last 5 fiscal years. And you'll see a dip in 2020 and 2021 because during the pandemic, attendance to the site was low, and ticket sales are what drives most of this earned special fund. In fiscal 2022, the earned special fund revenue began to surpass the totals of 2020 and 2021 at approximately 1.1 million. And comparing it to 2020 and 2021, there was a growth of 5% and 12% respectively. And then finally, on the bottom of page 7, there's a very short discussion about the performance audit that was required of the commission last year in the 2022 Joint Chairman's Report. This audit was to be submitted by December 1st, and it was to encompass the financial management practices at the commission. As of the writing of the analysis, the report had not yet been submitted. And because of that, DLS recommends that the budget committees add language restricting funds pending the submission of the audit report. And on the following page, you'll see the language that is attached to that recommendation. It would restrict again another 500,000 until the report is submitted, and that due date is August 1st, 2023. And with that, I conclude my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions from the committee? Good job. Thank you. Okay, I have Dr. Regina Faden, Executive Director, down as the person that's going to present today. Do you all want to identify yourselves and
Yeah, Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Tim Healy. I am the chairman of the Historic St. Mary's City Commission. And Dr. Faden could not come for personal reasons. I will
Okay.
do this presentation.
okay, go right ahead.
And one thing on Morgan's comments on the increase of recreational use, I think that number is actually low. We have a lot of paths through the city, and you can't walk there without seeing people and dogs and everything else. It's a very, very popular place to go. COVID opens us up, and once people saw that, they continue to come back. So it's a real plus.
I have to say that I chaperoned school kids to St. Mary's City twice in my life. And very memorable trips. The kids enjoyed it. I was so impressed with it. It was great. It was a few years ago.
But it's better now. We have the fort, we have the new Dove, thanks to our support here.
Yes.
And it's booming.
Okay.
14, we have a 14-member commission. 11 of those 14 taken their seats within the last year. A lot of energy, a lot of local people who are just invested. We're all volunteers, of course, but invested in making this a better place. The point we have right here is this audit. The audit came up last year. We hired a company called AHY, which I think has a pretty good reputation in the state of Maryland for audits. They came in, it was a little late starting just because of the usual contractual things getting this set. But what they've done it, they completed a draft and they briefed the commission the end of last month on the 29th of January for us to add our comments or changes. We asked to emphasize some things and take off other things. The audit firm went back to make those changes. They're going to debrief our changes and the final draft tomorrow to Dr. Faden and whatever staff she wants to be there tomorrow at 9. I will be there as well. And then they should complete it. So I anticipate that the audit will be submitted by the end of this week, or having been in government before, I'll say next week. But I think it probably should be.
Well, that would be wonderful because, we're in the middle of budget and,
Right.
and by the middle of March, we will be completing budget language.
Yes,
So if we can get it completed before that, then we don't have to mess with.
And
budget
part of the
language.
problem was they came in, they asked for records from 2018 to 2022. And then once they got into, they didn't see glaring problems, but they had some things they wanted clarifications. They went back to 2014, 2018. And last week they asked for 2022 through as much of 23 as we had. So they expanded the scope of the audit internally. I don't think they're going to charge us more, but that really was what drugged the whole thing out.
That works for me. Any questions from the committee? Senator Bailey?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to represent Historic St. Mary's City.
I'm happy to have Admiral Healy and their crew here today. We are, as Admiral Healy said, we have a brand new Board of Commissioners. They're engaged, involved, and they're making changes for all Marylanders looking forward, especially as we approach the 400th anniversary of Maryland. I've been briefed on the audit, and I think that we should have it at the end of next week.
Great, thank you. Senator Benson.
Afternoon. Thank you for your report. Did a very fine job. Wanted her to know. I'm also an educator. Been traveling this road for almost 50 years. One of the finest decisions I ever made in my life was to become an educator. So I want to make that real public. I noticed that there's not a significant increase in the number of students that come to the, what are you all doing in the way of increasing that? And the other thing is, how do you all publicize the museum in the state of Maryland?
Those are very good questions. Right now, it's not mandatory, but a majority of fourth grade, the school visitors are usually fourth graders that come down. And we're trying to expand it just through your works and everybody else to go throughout the state to alert them of what we have. COVID, like everybody else, slowed things down for a couple, 3 years. But with the new fort and how they described it yesterday, the fort is about the size of a football field or a soccer field if you're in Europe. And it's huge. And every week they come with new things they're finding. So we have a new archaeologist, newish, last couple, 3 years. A younger gentleman who's really taken hold of that, and he's bringing children to the site, which I think will get more people to come as well. My mother, my sister, my wife, and my daughter are all teachers, so I appreciate that profession as well.
And if I might add also is that COVID was a factor in the school tours.
Oh, yeah.
But we looked at bookings coming up this spring, and we're looking at pre-pandemic numbers for this spring for booking for school tours.
Yes. That's very good. I'm very glad to hear that. Because we really do, I think we here in the state of Maryland need to do a better job of promoting the good things that are happening around the state.
I agree.
And this museum is really one of the features that we need to talk more about, because it really does depict the history of the great state of Maryland. And so I would hope that we do a better job of publicizing this and having more of our children around the state of Maryland to exercise the opportunity to come to St. Mary's County.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, have you all arranged a place? The only problem I have, probably you all have changed since I had my little baby children down there. The fourth graders were the targeted grades that we sent to St. Mary's. Where do the children eat? The bag lunches?
So
Where do they eat? That was one of the problems that we were having when we went down for our visit. It was very difficult for us to find a place for the children to eat.
Yes, ma'am. So we
take the little bag lunches out, and everybody's all excited, and we had to, just keep everybody under control. St. Mary's it's a beautiful place.
Yes, ma'am. So we have the Stadium Authority has been looking at us for about a year. I just got an unofficial debrief from them the other day, so they expect to have their report out in the middle of March, which will address places to eat, places to stay, and development of that county down there.
Wonderful.
And I want to say one more thing about getting the word out. I talked about the new Dove. So we have the replica of the Dove, which was built in 1972, I think, which is literally falling apart. Thanks to everyone's support up here, we have a new Dove that was built in St. Michael's, sailed over last, I think July or August of last year. So that's there. But this summer we have a plan to go to Baltimore, Havre de Grace, St. Michael's, 2 or 3 other ports up and throughout Maryland to introduce the ship, the boat, and in our city as well. So I'm hoping that's a way we can get the word out to everyone as well.
I would like to also add that we built with the state support and our foundation, a pavilion that also gives a covered area for the students when they come down. And we expanded our picnic area for that purpose as well.
Okay, Senator Bailey.
I just wanted to say, Senator, thank you so much for your questions. We hear you loud and clear. We have in the capital budget proposed a larger educational center, so that because right now we are so susceptible to the weather and the environment, but we're going to be able to take those children and be able to educate them inside. And we are working on that when we get them there. So thank you very much. We hear you.
Yeah, that's thank you so much.
On that happy note, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, we have the Department of Commerce with Emily Haskell. And we have the Secretary, Kevin Anderson. I think this is your first time before us, so welcome. And we have Jennifer Lahat. And we're going to start with the analyst.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, my name is Emily Haskell, and I'll be presenting the operating budget analysis for the Maryland Department of Commerce. I'm going to start on page 1 with the operating budget summary. You'll see Commerce's fiscal 2024 budget decreases by about 34% to $243 million. This is a decrease of more than $100 million due to one-time funds that were provided in fiscal 2023. Those included both general funds as well as special funds that were provided through the dedicated purpose account, including $50 million for rural regional councils, $40 million in supplemental funding for the arts, and $10 million in supplemental funding for tourism development. This large decrease is partially offset by a new $10 million in general funds that is contingent on the Innovation, Economy, and Infrastructure Act, which would create the Build Our Future grant program in Commerce to provide grants of up to $2 million that support infrastructure projects in advanced technology industries. I'm going to jump ahead to page 5. Okay. There was language in the fiscal 2023 budget bill that restricted funding in the Maryland Tourism Development Board for various grants. And while most of this funding has been released, there are a few grants where the funding has not been released. That's for the Prince George's Financial Services Corporation and for Employ Prince George's. And DLS has asked the department to comment on if these funds are expected to be released. Jumping ahead to page 9. The fiscal 2024 allowance includes $2 million in special funds for a proposed Sunny Day Award, the first installment of $2 million. In total, the award would be $6 million for the glove manufacturer United Safety Technology, divided into 3 installments in 2024, 2026, and 2028. United Safety Technology is expanding its operations in Trade Point Atlantic, and the project is expected to generate more than 1,800 jobs by December 2027. This funding is being provided from the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Authority and Fund, or MEDAF. And MEDAF funding is being used instead of the typical, typically funds would come from the Sunny Day Fund, but MEDAF is being used instead because of the accumulation of significant fund balance. And so also as well, when funding comes from the Sunny Day Fund, there's an approval process where the Legislative Policy Committee will be required to give approval. And so DLS is recommending requiring notification to LPC prior to the distribution of funds from MEDAF as well to maintain that standard level of oversight. Also on the bottom of page 9, moving on to page 10, the American Rescue Plan Act provided funding for the State Small Business Credit Initiative Program, or SSBCI, which funds state programs that expand access to capital for small and underserved businesses. In total, Maryland's funding for SSBCI totals nearly $200 million. And this funding is being managed by the Department of Housing and Community Development. But DHCD has allocated a little less than a quarter of the total funding, $45 million to Commerce to be deployed through the Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority, or MSBDFA program, to provide loans and investments. Maryland's SSBCI funding is coming to the state across 3 tranches. The funds are expected to be expended from fiscal 2023 to approximately fiscal 2028. The fiscal 2023 budget in Commerce includes $14 million in MSBDFA for SSBCI, and the fiscal 2024 allowance includes $7 million. However, MSBDFA so far has only made 1 award totaling about $300,000. So DLS has asked the department to comment on the expected pace of using these funds going forward. I'll turn next to the first issue in the analysis, which relates to the More Jobs for Marylanders program. Starts on page 12. The More Jobs for Marylanders program provides an income tax credit for businesses that create or maintain jobs in the state. Generally, the businesses have to be in the manufacturing industry or be located in opportunity zones. And the program provides 10 years of benefits for qualifying businesses. Chapter 136 of 2022 extended the program for 2 additional years, so Commerce can enroll projects in the program through May 2024. Chapter 136 also made several modifications to the program for businesses that enroll after June 2022. Exhibit 4 on page 13 shows some of those modifications, including reducing the value of the income tax credit, increasing the minimum number of required jobs, and reducing the duration from 10 years to 5 years of benefits for businesses that are located in tier 2 areas of the state. Next, exhibit 5 on page 14 shows the program activity to date. In total, 41 businesses have claimed $20.7 million in income tax credits since the program's inception. And this chart shows the progression of how companies have moved through the program, claiming multiple years of benefits so far. Large projects account for the majority of credits claimed by dollar value. 4 companies account for nearly half of the year 1 credits claimed. And overall, Northrop Grumman in its first 3 years of benefits accounts for nearly 65% of the total credits claimed. And the project has also reserved a further $10 million for its 4th benefit year. Program activity is expected to continue to grow. You'll see in exhibit 6 on page 16 shows the estimates of the growth over time. And this is going up quite steeply for a couple reasons. First, there were a large number of enrollments in the program before the June 2022 deadline for program modifications. So there's a little jump in fiscal 2024 as those companies that recently enrolled will claim their first year of credits. And then also projects tend to grow significantly between benefit years. So that's really the main driver behind this steep climb. In terms of program funding, the fiscal 2024 allowance includes $34 million in general funds for More Jobs for Marylanders. That's an increase of 13% over the prior year. And overall, in the first 5 years of the program, fiscal 2019 through 2023, appropriations for More Jobs for Marylanders totaled about $60 million, whereas for the next 5 years, from fiscal 24 through 28, the program is estimated to need appropriations in excess of $300 million. Exhibit 7 on page 17 shows the appropriations to date, as well as the balance of unencumbered funds at the end of each fiscal year. You'll see fiscal 2024 shows a negative balance at the end of the year. And that's because based on the department's estimates of program activity, the fiscal 2024 allowance falls short of the program demand by about $7 million. However, these estimates represent the maximum amount of funding that might be needed. A couple of reasons are that businesses may claim less than the total amount authorized from their initial credit certificate. And also the fiscal year, it's just an estimate of which year the companies might claim a credit in. So it is likely that the proposed appropriation will be sufficient to cover the actual amount of initial tax credit certificates required. But in the event that it's not sufficient, Commerce regulations do establish a priority order, prioritizing companies that are located in tier 1 areas of the state, as well as companies that claimed credits in the immediately preceding fiscal year. Next, I'll move on to the second issue in the analysis, which relates to the small minority and women-owned businesses account for SMOBA. SMOBA receives most of its funding from video lottery terminal revenues, which VLT revenues for SMOBA are estimated to exceed $20 million annually, beginning in fiscal 2024. However, in Exhibit 8 on page 19, you can see that the transactions in the program have averaged about $11 million annually over the last several years. So the revenues significantly exceed the annual program activity. Another couple things to note about this chart are there are some particular increases in fiscal 23 and also in fiscal 2021. In fiscal 2021, that includes $10 million in federal funds that were provided from the American Rescue Plan by the state through the Relief Act. And then also fiscal 2023 includes $4 million in one-time funds to support fund manager operating costs. And then also you'll see from fiscal 2018 to 2020 that SMOBA did not receive VLT revenues in those years because funding was diverted instead to the general fund and the education trust fund. In Exhibit 10 on page 21, you can see that the SMOBA fund managers still have nearly $50 million still available to them. This is due in part to, as I mentioned, the revenues exceeding the transactions in the past few years, but also this funding is available due to repayments, which fund managers can use to make new loans under the SMOBA program. You can see that a couple fund managers still have quite a bit of funding left over from their fiscal 2016 awards. Next, Exhibit 11 on page 22 shows that lending to minority and women-owned businesses varies by fund manager. Overall, 28% of funding over the last several years went to minority-owned businesses and 39% to women-owned businesses. Nearly 30% of funding was distributed to businesses that are not minority, women, or veteran-owned. A couple of fund managers provided more than 85% of their funds to women, minority, and veteran-owned businesses, while several others provided less than 65%. Exhibit 12 on page 23 shows that while fund managers can lend anywhere in the state, they tend to lend most of their funds in their home jurisdictions. Adding new fund managers is one way to potentially increase the activity under the SMOBA program, and Commerce did add a fund manager in Montgomery County in fiscal 2022. DLS has asked the department to comment on efforts to add additional fund managers or to otherwise increase program activity in SMOBA. Finally, on page 25, this shows the DLS recommended language requiring notification to LPC regarding the Sunny Day Fund Award. And that's all I have today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great job as always. Thank you very much. Okay. Talk about jumping into the fire with both feet, huh? Welcome, Secretary.
Thank you so much, Valiant Subcommittee members. It's a pleasure to be before you. For the record, my name is Kevin Anderson. I'm the Acting Secretary of Commerce. I'm here to offer testimony in support of Commerce's proposed FY 2024 budget. I'd like to thank Emily Haskell, our DLS analyst, for her thoughtful and thorough analysis. I've only been secretary for a few weeks, but they have been very busy weeks. I've been working very hard to get to know the department and the Commerce team and to get to know many members of the General Assembly. And I personally thank each of you for the time that we've been able to spend together. I'll be providing a brief overview of this year's budget proposal, but I'm joined today by several members of the Commerce team. To my far right, Tom Reifert, Assistant Secretary for Tourism, Film, and the Arts, Deputy Secretary Signa Pringle, and Assistant Secretary Heather Graham for Business and Industry Sector Development. They'll be able to help answer any questions you may have. Commerce's proposed fiscal 2024 operating budget totals $242.8 million and supports 186 permanent positions. This will allow the department to continue attracting and retaining businesses in Maryland, supporting small businesses, providing targeted support to grow strategic industry sectors, and supporting tourism and the arts. This includes $17.5 million for our Advantage Maryland or MEDAF program. This is our direct assistance program, our workhorse program, which supports major economic development projects, such as new manufacturing facilities and corporate headquarters. This program is in high demand, which these funds will allow Commerce to meet. There's $33.9 million in the budget for income tax reserve credits for the More Jobs for Marylanders. This program provides tax credits for new jobs created by qualifying manufacturers as well as qualifying employers in new federally designated opportunity zones. There's $12 million for the Biotechnology Investment Incentive Credit, or BITC. This is another high demand program, and it focuses on spurring investment in the life sciences, one of Maryland's key industry sectors. We have $12.3 million for the Ms. Bidford program, so we can continue providing essential financing assistance to small and minority-owned businesses across Maryland. There's also continued support for our small minority and women-owned business account, known formally as the VLT program, because it's funded by SLOT's proceeds. Estimated proceeds this year are over $20 million. This budget also includes critical support for tourism and the arts, which fall under the broader umbrella of economic development, in part because they are great drivers of visitor spending. But they also support quality of life in our state. They show that Maryland is a fun place, a beautiful place, and a culturally rich and inspiring place. As we market the state and work to attract new business investment, tourism and the arts are important ways of illustrating that Maryland is a great place to be. So this year's budget proposal includes $22 million in total funds for the Office of Tourism Development and the Maryland Tourism Development Board, and $30.5 million to the Maryland State Arts Council. Finally, I want to note that the governor's budget proposal includes $10 million for the Build Our Future Grant Pilot Program and Fund. This is a new program established in separate legislation this year, which will provide funding for infrastructure projects that support innovation in a number of key industries. These include manufacturing, aerospace, cybersecurity, the life sciences, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, robotics, and clean energy, among others. Before I conclude, I want to quickly address the DLS recommendations, as well as two items DLS asked Commerce to comment on. You have our complete responses attached to our written testimony. We were just made aware that Governor Moore would be releasing the final fenced-off funds noted in the analysis. Commerce staff are starting work on that process right now. Regarding the sunny day funds, Commerce concurs with the recommendation to require notification to the Legislative Policy Committee prior to the distribution of funds. We have also responded regarding the pace of deployment of the SSBCI funds through Ms. Bidford. Meeting the federal requirements has been challenging, but we do expect those transactions to increase through the fall. Lastly, regarding SMOOBA, an RFP has been advertised and the department is seeking additional fund managers to deploy these funds. If possible, we hope to bring on at least 2 to 3 more fund managers. I want to end by echoing the words of Governor Moore, who has said that we have incredible assets in Maryland, but we have not had the most effective strategy in recent years. We're not seeing the job growth and investment we should be. This administration is focused on boosting Maryland's competitiveness, and Commerce's proposed budget allowance will support that effort. These funds will help Maryland leverage our great assets into meaningful economic growth so we can stand toe-to-toe with any other state in this country as a great place to do business. We respectfully ask that you approve the governor's allowance as submitted. Thank you very much, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. That's why I support you. Any questions? You did pretty good that first time. No
Awesome.
questions.
Thank you. More to roll, right?
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, we have some public witnesses here this afternoon. We want to start with a panel. We'll do Cheryl Ford with ATHOSI LLC. Barbara Ash with the Veteran Institute for Procurement, Ruth Toomey with the Maryland Tourism Coalition, and Daniel Spedden with Hagerstown, Washington County Convention Center. And I can do one more here. How about Juan Linares, no organization declared. Okay, can you do it in about 2 minutes, please?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to see you. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here and also for the subcommittee members. Thank you so much. My name is Barbara Ash, and I am the Executive Vice President at the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. But I also serve as the president of their foundation and run the National Center for the Veteran Institute for Procurement, better known as VIP. We've been running this program since 2009. We're headquartered in Rockville, and we do all of our training at the Bolger Center located in Potomac, Maryland. Since 2014, we have received funds from the state of Maryland, and we're most grateful for that continued support for our veterans and entrepreneurship. I'm here today to thank you not only for that support, but to ask for your continued support for the VIP program. We have more than 500 graduates from the state of Maryland, which represents over 25% of our graduates nationwide, but yet we receive less than 10% of our funding from Maryland. So it's a pretty good deal, of course, for the state of Maryland. Not only is it local here for our veterans in the state of Maryland, but they also get the bonus of picking up a national network with never having to leave their great state of Maryland. And I was so excited to see in the State of the State address by Governor Moore, the emphasis on the national treasure that we have here of our veterans and making sure that we invest in their future here. And I'm always excited to come and introduce you to one of our graduates. And I'm very excited to have you meet Dr. Cheryl Ford, who is a recent graduate of VIP. So you get to meet her and hear of her experience. So with that, I
Thank you.
cede my time over to.
I was really impressed in talking to Governor Moore, how totally excited he is about anything for the veterans. So it's really, he'll be happy about this.
Thank you. And
Go ahead.
Over to you, Cheryl.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and Chairman King and members of the subcommittee. This is my very first visit here, and I am so honored to be here and humbled to be among you. So I will tell you, I am Dr. Cheryl Ford, President and CEO of Athos One LLC. I'm a proud veteran of the United States Public Health Service Commission Corps. I am here today to testify in support of the fiscal year 2024 budget request for the Department of Commerce, which provides support for nonprofits like the Montgomery County Chamber Foundation's Veteran Institute for Procurement, or the VIP program. The VIP program, as you just described, is the first free training program for service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, what we call SDVOSBs, and Maryland veteran-owned small businesses. Veteran-owned companies, C-level executives receive comprehensive instructions on how to accelerate their federal government contracting business skills. Well, my company, Athos One, is a management and technology firm located in Ellicott City, Maryland, and Howard County. We provide advisory services, project management, and health IT services. We are aimed at supporting government and industry, and our position is we can help better manage their health and public health initiatives, including managing data as a corporate asset. The growth of my company has been through socioeconomic set-asides to include the earned service-disabled veteran-owned status, business status. And this year, we will be responding to the Department of VA's Transformation 21 Total Technology Next Generation 2, or what they call T4NG2. It is an IDIQ multiple award contract for the VA to acquire IT and health IT services. Why am I mentioning this? Well, the VA is recommending 30 total awards, and among those 30, they have 13 set aside for service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, 1 for a woman-owned service-disabled veteran-owned small business, and 1 for a hub-zone service-disabled veteran-owned business. So those 15, that's half of that 30 of that target. And this important initiative, my company, Athos, will be joined with other VIP graduates who will bring over 20 more years of my 30 years of experience. So I think we'll come in the room qualified, we believe. So as an entrepreneur, and I will say the great state of Maryland, traveling locally and nationally, I do not know a single veteran-owned business who has not participated and received great value from this program. I graduated recently.
I hate to do this to you, but can you wrap it up?
Sure, let me get to
Thank you.
it. So I graduated recently, and the bottom line really is this program must exist. And with that must exist, we add significant value to the veteran business community and the Maryland economy. And all of that is to ask, can this subcommittee respectfully fully fund the Department of Commerce's budget request?
Thank you very much. And having Gigi as my friend, do you think there's a chance that I can get away with not funding everything she asked for?
I hope not.
Do you know that woman? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Good afternoon, Chair King and members of the subcommittee. I am Juan Carlos Linares, and I'm the Regional General Manager for Federal Realty Investment Trust, and I oversee the mixed-use centers of Bethesda Row and Pike and Rose. I serve on the Maryland Tourism Development Board along with other business leaders that wake up every morning wondering how to provide a quality experience for our guests and employees. I want to be brief. The Maryland Office of Tourism commissioned research to study the effectiveness of its advertising and learned that for every dollar spent, in aggressive promotions of Maryland as a vacation destination, $31 is spent at the state's attractions, restaurants, hotels, and other tourism-related businesses. Marketing the state as a travel destination continues to be vitally important. The tourism industry was dramatically impacted by COVID. Maryland needs to continue to invest in marketing to continue the upward trajectory that was recorded in fiscal year 21. The most recent data from Smith Travel Research shows that Maryland closed out calendar year 22 with a 9% increase in occupancy, people staying in hotels. There was a 14% increase in the average daily rate, how much an average hotel room costs, and room revenue increased 28%. The increase in room revenue is good for Maryland as that revenue is tied directly to sales tax. Increased visitor spending increases dollars going to the general fund. I know many large and small businesses rely on the state of Maryland to encourage people to come visit our state. These folks that visit here leave with amazing memories that will last a lifetime and leave their dollars in our state's general fund. Invest in Commerce's tourism budget. It's a truly sound investment.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good afternoon, everyone. In Washington County, Maryland, last year, visitors spent $321 million. That provided employment for just under 5,000 people. 7.7% of the county's workforce is employed in tourism. I'm Dan Spedden, president of the Hagerstown, Washington County Convention and Visitors Bureau. I am a member of the 25 Maryland destination marketing organizations that represent each county, the city of Baltimore, and Ocean City. As the president of the Hagerstown, Washington County Convention and Visitors Bureau, I have come to rely on the partnership, technical assistance, and marketing outreach that is done by the State Tourism Office. The consumer research that the State Tourism Office does helps my office make informed decisions that deliver return on our investment. The work that is done by the Maryland Office of Tourism serves as a resource to each of the destination marketing organizations as they make their advertising investment decisions. Please know that visitors just don't come. They have to be invited. As such, advertising and promotion is critical to the bottom line because it asks people to come to Maryland, spend their time and their money, and they leave with great memories. So let's keep inviting them through advertising and marketing. And please fully fund the governor's recommended budget for the Maryland Tourism Development Board and the Office of Tourism Development. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Last but not least. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. My name is Ruth Toomey. I am the Executive Director of the Maryland Tourism Coalition, often referred to as MTC. The Maryland Tourism Coalition is the trade association of all sectors of the tourism industry across the state of Maryland. We connect, educate, and advocate on behalf of our members. Our members work together to promote businesses, participate in professional development activities, and enhance our economic impact for the benefit of all Marylanders. Together, as a tourism coalition, we strengthen our industry and positively affect our economy, which benefits all Marylanders. Our members include not only restaurants, hotels, and attractions, but also heritage areas, towns, historic sites, hospitality associations, chambers, management companies, and many, many small businesses. We also have members who service our industry, such as marketing, media, IT, landscaping, and more. I am here representing those businesses and the hundreds of thousands of faces of tourism that rely on the spending of our visitors for their livelihood, and ask you to not only support the Commerce budget, but also, which includes the budget for the Maryland Office of Tourism Development Board and the Office of Tourism, but also to increase it. Visitors have been invited to select Maryland as their travel destination, and that invitation comes in the form of advertising. And advertising costs money. And there and other states investing in advertising to support their destinations. As a matter of fact, Maryland's tourism budget is smaller than 25 states, smaller than those in our immediate region. Virginia gets $78 million. Pennsylvania, $35.1 million. West Virginia, 25.4, which is most comparable to the state of Maryland, and Maryland gets $15.3 million. I'd also attached a sound investment to my testimony. There's other facts for you there. So on behalf of the Maryland Tourism Coalition, I ask that you support Commerce budget. It is a sound investment, and tourism does work for Maryland. Thank you.
Correct. Okay, thank you all. Okay, we have Susan Jenkins with the Arts and Humanities Council of Montgomery County, Nicholas Cohen with Maryland Citizens for the Arts, John Schrotzweiser with the MSAC Council, Katie Hecklinger with the Black Rock Center for the Arts, and Georgiana Windley with Kent Narrows Development Foundation. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, honorable members of the committee. My name is Nicholas Cohen. I'm the Executive Director of Maryland Citizens for the Arts. We are the nonprofit organization that serves as a statewide advocacy group for public investment in the arts. Through our advocacy, we represent the interests of 300 arts organizations, 24 local arts councils, 27 arts and entertainment districts, and thousands of independent artists across Maryland. It is truly an honor to work in a state that values and celebrates the arts sector's ability to attract and retain residents and businesses that contribute so much to Maryland's high quality of life. I want to thank the governor, his administration, the Secretary of Commerce, and the Maryland General Assembly for their continued role and belief in the incredible importance of a vibrant arts sector here in Maryland. I also want to thank the Maryland State Arts Council and their staff for their incredible actions during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as our sector suffered more than almost any other sector here in Maryland and across the nation, and their ability to take a lot of the investment provided by the General Assembly and invest it in our arts communities in every single county and every single corner of the state. It's helped so much to keep our doors open and for us to continue to provide valuable lifelong learning to arts appreciators across Maryland. So thank you so much to State Arts Council and their incredible staff. But today I'm also providing a voice for our arts constituents. And I'd like to ask this committee to continue the trend of strong state investment in the arts. And to that end, we respectfully ask the committee to fully fund the Maryland State Arts Council at the legally mandated FY24 arts appropriation of $30.5 million. The Maryland State Arts Council ensures that this appropriation reaches every single corner of the state. And more importantly, it is distributed equitably through a rigorous and transparent granting process with an eye towards diversity and accountability. As you will hear from my wonderful colleagues on this panel, this investment is a crucial piece of state support for the continued vibrancy of the arts here in Maryland. Again, I thank this committee for its time and continued support of Maryland's arts sector. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I've told most of the people that have come to visit me, I think since I've been here that I don't remember ever taking anything really out of the governor's budget. So once it's there, it's pretty comfortable.
Yeah, we just like to affirm it.
That's good. That's good. Need to do that.
I just want you to know how grateful we are for that. Madam Chair, honorable members of the committee, I'm Susan Jenkins. I'm the CEO of the Arts and Humanities Council in Montgomery County, and I'm just honored and pleased to be able to be with you here today. I'm a member of the Maryland Citizens for the Arts Board, and I'm here today to express my deep gratitude for our state's past investments in our sector and to implore you to sustain that support. I thank the governor, his administration, and the Maryland General Assembly for their continued support and belief that the incredible importance of a vibrant arts sector here in Maryland. Maryland has become a leader in the nation for per capita investment in the arts. In turn, the industry makes a staggering yearly economic impact of over $1 billion while bringing joy, inspiration, and entertainment to Marylanders and beyond, enriching our communities culturally. On behalf of the hundreds of arts organizations and artists in Montgomery County and across our great state, it's an honor to work in a state that values and celebrates the art sector's ability to attract and retain residents and businesses that contribute so much to Marylanders' high quality of life. Today, I ask that the committee continue the trend of strong state investment in the arts. And to that end, we respectfully ask the committee to fully fund the Maryland State Arts Council at the legally mandated FY24 arts appropriation of $30.5 million. The Maryland State Arts Council ensures that this appropriation reaches every corner of the state. And as former president of the County Arts Agencies of Maryland, I've seen how Maryland State Arts Council's rigorous and transparent granting processes with an eye towards diversity and accountability distributes these much needed funds equitably through the entire state. Your investment is a crucial piece of state support for the continued vibrancy of the arts here in Maryland, and I implore you to sustain our investments in Maryland's vibrant arts sector, which will support our state's overall economic recovery. With your help, we can ensure that the arts continue to thrive and bring joy and inspiration to all. Thank you for your time and for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Okay, next.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Katie Hecklinger, CEO of Black Rock Center for the Arts. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Black Rock Center for the Arts serves Upper Montgomery County in Germantown, Maryland. Our mission
Right
is
on the line of District 39, I might just add.
Yes, it's a perk. So you're familiar with our mission and our space, but for the others, our mission is to bring inspiring performing and visual arts experiences to diverse audiences in a welcoming and intimate setting, providing opportunities to explore, celebrate, and engage in the arts. Celebrating our 20th year, we host performances and community events on our 3 stages. We offer free visual arts exhibitions in 2 galleries, and our education programs take place in our classrooms, our studios, and we extend well into our public schools. The general operating support we receive each year from the Maryland State Arts Council makes Black Rock's work possible, allowing free or affordable artistic and cultural experiences to a growing community. The general operating support brings life to our special events like our Juneteenth celebration, our Pumpkin Fest for little ones, and our Artisans Market to support local artists. We are a place where people connect, express, enjoy, educate, and discover community. Black Rock serves as a critical resource in Upper Montgomery County. We are essential to the economic vitality as the cultural anchor, especially right now, as our patrons become more confident in gathering in the wake of COVID-19. For these reasons, I ask for fully funded Maryland State Arts Council at the legally mandated FY24 arts appropriation of $30.5 million. This support for Black Rock has a direct impact on our uniquely diverse, thriving community, recently ranked first in the nation for ethno-racial, linguistic, and birthplace diversity by Wallet Hub. Our mission is to embrace and celebrate this diversity through the arts, and it's possible because of the Maryland State Arts Council support. Thank you for your time.
Good, thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is John Schratweiser. I am currently the director of the Kent Cultural Alliance in Chestertown, Maryland, but I serve as the vice chair of the Maryland State Arts Council Board. And Senator King, as you know, I sat in Nicholas's chair for about 7 years with Maryland Citizens for the Arts. I'm happy to be back and happy to see you and all the members of the committee. I want to thank you all for your continued support of the arts throughout Maryland. As the County Arts Council for Maryland's smallest and most rural county, I can tell you with certainty that the Maryland State Arts Council's commitment to access to the arts and equitable distribution of public funds in support of the creative sector has ensured that these dollars are indeed reaching every corner of our state. For decades, Maryland has been a national model for public funding in the creative sector. For Maryland's western, southern, and eastern counties, all of us who have less access to large-scale philanthropic support from private foundations and corporations, yet MSAC provides nearly the same size block grant to us as they do to our wonderful esteemed colleagues in Montgomery County. And what that says to us is that all 24 counties are seen on equal footing from the eyes of the state. It also means that we can continue the important work of supporting our local arts organizations, our public schools, specifically our fine arts teachers, and our community organizations, everything from the Kent Ag Board and 4-H groups to the Wharton Point African American Schoolhouse, Sultana Foundation, the Chester River Foundation, and also the University of Maryland Shore Regional Health Hospital Centers across the Eastern Shore. In Maryland, we set an example for the rest of the country that this is how funding, because this funding has had such strong bipartisan support, and that bipartisan support has been there since the day this funding formula was passed in 1996. We thank you for continuing to uphold that formula and for supporting the Maryland State Arts Council and the Department of Commerce.
Thank you so much. Is Georgiana Windley here?
Good afternoon, Chair King and members of the subcommittee. I'm going to abbreviate my testimony because I'm last, and I'm sure you want to get out of here. I'm Georgiana Winley, Executive Director of the Kent Narrows Development Foundation, and we're a redevelopment organization on Maryland's Eastern Shore. Our region is highly affected by visitor spending. At Kent Narrows, several new tourism-dependent businesses were under construction when the COVID crisis hit, and that posed a great bit of challenges for us, the developers, and the visitors as well. So this included a 120-room hotel, a new waterfront restaurant, and several other retail businesses. It also included upgrades in our seafood and charter-related headboat business with the fishing, and it affected our local watermen too. So with that, I want to emphasize really why I'm here is to talk about what the Department of Commerce has done for us during this crisis and what they continue to do and how needed they are. I want to just say our deepest gratitude goes to the help that has been given to us through the Department of Commerce, especially the Tourism Division. So their programs have helped us far beyond what they would normally do. And we really think that it's important right at this juncture to support their budget and to support any kind of increase in their budget at this point. In closing, a 2019 Beacon study of the Kent Narrows market area revealed that for every dollar in visitor spending generated, $1.39 of total economic activity happened on or around our waterfront. That is very significant. And we believe that this number will go up significantly. We think this is underestimated. But finally, it's important to mention that the tourism programs directly support trade and business recruitment and retention efforts as well. So they serve as a foundation for most everything else that is being done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. That concludes our hearing for today.